Is it too hot of a topic to ask you about nuclear energy?
That's a very good plan. Thank you. No. I'm trying to avoid every dogmatism in that issue. We do have a serious problem with the climate change, and that's due to fossil fuel burning. We know that.
Yeah.
We also know that mobility based on traditional engines is not the most effective way to use energy. If you want to look at the conversion of a finite body of energy into movement, electricity is much better. An electric engine has about 98-99% yield, when a thermal engine will be 28 or 30. So there really is there's absolutely no excuse for not going electric in the long run.
Right.
Not tomorrow, but in the long run.
Right. Generate this electricity somehow then, right?
The argument made by the fossil fuel industry is to say, we don't want to pump petrol and burn it, but you need it, don't you? And that argument is an extremely dangerous one, because that is immobilism. That's not innovation. Innovation is the one we were talking about before. We need to be able to say, yes, we do have a need for energy. How do we solve it? So closing all nuclear energy tomorrow would be a mistake, because at the moment it's part of the mix. Now, finding ways of generating the same amount of energy sustainably in the long run is what the real problem is. And at the moment, at least in the figures I have seen, nuclear power plants take 10, 15, 20 years to build.
Right.
And then another 2 years to be commissioned. We're in a hurry. We need to do things. The sun is here, wind is here, hydroelectricity is here.
Yes.
So today, if I had to allocate assets on the model we were talking about before, if I want to minimize the risk, I better go into something that's already here. Yeah. Better the bird in the bush than two in the tree, I forgot what the expression
Whatever
is.
that phrase is. Right. Exactly.
To a certain extent, you need to act immediately.
Right.
So the idea of saying nuclear is the end of the world, no, it's not. But it is an over-allocation of resources to a technology that until now does not really yield all the things we would like it to yield.
Interesting. I mean, you could make the argument, couldn't you, that if it takes 17 years before a nuclear power plant would actually be online and producing energy, then there's no time to lose. Let's get started right now, right?
Sure. But you could also make the argument that all that money that you're going to put during the 17 years, you could put it to work somewhere else in a much more efficient way.
Yeah.
By the way, that's business.
Yeah.
That's management.
Right.
That's allocation of resources.
Right.
And that's the question we have to do.
Yeah.
Sadly, the water are a bit muddied by a number of companies doing so well from the status quo that they are trying to stop it moving.
Yeah.
The lobbying in parliament of all the governments on the planet is more resourced by the people who are successful now than by the people who are going to be successful in the future.
Sure. I think that's always been the case in every industry, right?
Remember Groucho Marx expression, what should I do for the next generation? What did they ever do for me?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Well, let's talk a little bit about your opinion, if you are willing to share it, of how Switzerland is doing in this area. And do you feel that that Switzerland is a leader, a laggard, or somewhere in between, as far as actually kind of making these kinds of changes is concerned?
So maybe I should start by apologizing a little bit. When I was a student, I was volunteering for WWF and a couple of other NGOs, conservation NGOs. And one of the things we got very engaged in was the theory of acid rain. I don't know if you remember that. Sure. We were going to lose all our forests because the rain is turning acid. Well, we have more forests now than we did at the time.
Right.
We cried wolf a little bit early, let's put it this way. And I think that there is a need, and not a need, an obligation for governments to manage in the long term. And so reacting quickly to each short-term issue is a little bit dangerous. Right. It's a dangerous way of doing business or politics. It's something you shouldn't be doing. But today, the fact that the climate, that we are reaching planetary boundaries is absolutely clear. I mean, this is unequivocal. So today, the managers of the public goods should go more and more towards creating a sustainable future. And frankly, it should be independent of investment levels. We need all hands on deck.
Yeah, but Switzerland is famous for long-term thinking anyway, right? Do you see that in this issue as well, in this area?
it's a vast, multifaceted thing. If you look at what's happening in agriculture, for instance, yields are decreasing, and there are two ways you can deal with that. You can reintroduce a bit of life into the system, or you can go full blast onto mineral fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides. And frankly, the parliament seems to be very divided on this. I'm not quite sure which direction we are going to go going forward. I mean, I respect the work of the farmer like anybody, but the idea that you must produce at the cheapest possible cost at all time is exactly the sort of logic which has destroyed the system on a number of occasions. So we should be careful about this. Now, if you look at mobility, a small country, very mobile, practically everybody in Switzerland goes from town to town regularly.
Right.
The road system is overflowing. The public system seems to be very busy at the moment. We need to decide in that direction, and that means investment, and that means investing from somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Same with education, same with a number of different. Because good education, well-functioning university is a way of bringing the new nature of business about.
Yeah.
We will not save the Amazon if we don't increase the level of education or decrease the level of inequalities.
Yeah.
It's linked. Yeah?
Sure.
The social, the human, and the natural are linked.
Yeah.